I do a lot of my work right here in my basement studio. At this workbench, I have all the tools and equipment that I need for sculpture and other forms of preparation, a mixer, scales, chemicals, brushes, and so forth. The old makeup kit here, though, is what I have to take when I go out on location, and I have to be sure that I've got everything packed in it that I'm going to need, all the colors and other materials for a particular assignment. I always worry about forgetting something. Of course, a makeup artist needs a lot more equipment than that. I have several sets of shelves like this that are loaded with a hodgepodge of various kinds of makeup materials, liners, bases, pan sticks, paints. Here, for instance, is a box of noses left over from shows that I've worked on. I keep them because you never know when you're going to need another Cyrano nose or something like that. I guess you can see I'm an old string saver. I find that all kinds of things come in handy for makeup, things that aren't even makeup materials. And I save all these things, and sometimes when I have a makeup problem, I look around at the shelves and find, something I haven't looked at really in years, and I find if I mix it with something else, that maybe that's the answer to the problem. In this room, I do messy work like plaster casting, and I keep my oven for baking the foam latex. Over here, shelves for work I'm working on currently. And over here are some life masks of actors with whom I've worked.
Smith has transformed many a famous face and has worked on every type of makeup there is. But he is best known for his old age makeup techniques, which he has been refining for many years. In 1959, a youthful Michael Rennie was turned into a decrepit old man for the TV showing of The Scarlet Pimpernel. In the same year, viewers saw Sterling Hayden as two men, one a handsome 35, the other a scarred, bitter man of 50. And for a production of Soldier in Love, several characters grew older as the show progressed, among them Gene Simmons. Then, in 1967, Smith changed Hal Holbrook into Mark Twain for the TV special Mark Twain Tonight. The job required enormous detail due to the many close-ups where Holbrook's face would fill the entire screen. Mr. Holbrook received critical acclaim for his performance, and the makeup won an Emmy Award. But Twain wasn't Smith's last word in old age makeup. In '68, he aged Dustin Hoffman to 120 for the film Little Big Man.
So when Little Big Man came along, it was no big decision to want to work with him. If I think about why I wanted to work with him, his technical facility was obvious to me by then. He had proven himself, certainly with me, in terms of his work. I knew of no other makeup artist who could do that type of prosthetic work, which Little Big Man demanded to. So I went in, and we had to get started about 5 in the morning because we had to be ready to shoot at 10, and it was 5 hours. So I sat in the chair, and he started to, first thing he did was grease down my hair, which was all right, and then he started to apply this stuff. And though I'm not claustrophobic, I nevertheless got very itchy, and about every half hour, I think I needed to at least do some kind of movement. If I had to repeat it, I wouldn't want to go through it again as I remembered it. It was just one of the worst experiences I ever had. I think for Dick, it's better because he's working every minute, and it's somewhat surgical. As a matter of fact, I think a surgeon in him is probably kind of a comparable profession in terms of what he was doing, the layers that he put on me.
First step in doing a makeup like this is to mold from the actor's face a plaster life mask. Here's Dustin's, and here's what we do with it. On this duplicate, there's a clay sculpture of the old age makeup, which is the most critical stage of creating this sort of makeup. All the detail, all the realism that's important to the makeup must be done at this time. I don't like to make a mask in one piece. For technical reasons, I can do a better application if it's in sections. So I divided this face up into about 10 sections. For instance, I take off the clay from the lower lip and chin, and I put it on a duplicate of Dustin's lower lip and chin. And that's where I will do the final modeling of that particular section. And I'll do the same thing with several other pieces of that, of the entire face. At this point, I put a rubber wall around the life mask section with its finished clay sculpture, and I pour plaster within it in order to make the mold. After the plaster is hardened, the mold is opened, and all the clay is carefully removed, and the mold prepared for the introduction of foam latex. This is beaten up foam latex, which is a mixture of latex and chemicals whipped up. A little of this goes in each mold. It's closed up. The excess comes out, and we fill them all very carefully so that there's no air trapped in them. And then they'll be baked. The latex-filled molds will be baked in this laboratory oven for about 4 hours. I'll have to prepare a set for each day's shooting because they can only be used once. This is the way foam latex pieces look when they've been taken out of the molds. This happens to be a set left over from the filming of The Little Big Man, and they were pre-colored somewhat in order to save time in application. This is a little eyelid, which is something I'm rather pleased with because I was able to make them delicately enough to actually fold and unfold. I'm putting the pieces on a rubber head of Dustin to show you how they overlap. And also I want to show you what I did with the mouth to make it look old. It's been built out up in here, and the chin's built out, so that on profile you get that sunken-in old man look. This large piece has so many wrinkles in it that I think it must have taken me over a week to do the original sculpture. It goes on and overlaps the other pieces, wraps around and fits in up underneath the eyes, and really now starts to make the transformation complete. The next thing to go on is a foam rubber hump. This does two things for Dustin. Shortens up his neck and gives him a profile kind of like an old vulture, really stooped. The headpiece is made out of two overlapping pieces of foam rubber. Most headpieces are made out of plastic, but the foam rubber is a great advantage because you can sculpt in all the detail, wrinkles, skull structure, veins, and so forth, and you can even implant the hair into it to give a really natural effect.
I felt physically old, so that I couldn't walk fast. I couldn't climb stairs fast, and I know it was psychological, but it was something that I didn't have to worry about working at as an actor. I think I even felt sorry for myself. I remember I went into a room and started screaming in order to get my voice hoarse. And after doing that for about 15 minutes, I wandered down to the set, though the set was on location in an old folks veterans hospital. And they had the real patients on either side in the beds. And while they were setting up, I started to talk to a patient, a real patient. And I asked him, "How old are you?" And he said 92, I think. And I said, "Well, 95. And he said, he says, "I'll catch you yet." And the crew, I looked out of the corner of my eye, and they were giggling and laughing in a good-natured way at the episode because they realized I was carrying it off.
I get a lot of letters from people who want to know how you become a makeup artist. I always try to write back because it's pretty hard to become a makeup artist nowadays. I was lucky. I first got interested in makeup when I was a young college student, and I found a book on the subject, and it started me off on a real lark. I started making myself up, whenever I had the free time, as some monster from the films, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde, the werewolf, and so forth. And each time I'd go out and I'd scare some of my classmates and have fun with it. And I wasn't serious about it. Along came World War II, and it wasn't until after that, when I got out in 1945, that I thought I would try to become a makeup artist. So after many attempts, I was lucky. I got a start at NBC when I was just about 23 in June of 1945. And I was the first one to work steadily in TV.
Smith now does most of his work for feature films, such as The Godfather.
Brando's life mask is probably the only clean one I've got, because Marlon really didn't want to get into a complicated makeup. He didn't want to wear appliances and sit for 2 or 3 hours in the makeup room. Can't really blame him, so we worked together on it, and we did some tests, and I worked out a way of aging him, in about an hour and a quarter, just using something we call old age stipple. I'll show you how it worked on Brando's skin by doing some on my own hand. We stipple it on. That's where it gets its name. And then stretch the skin. I'll do that by bending my hand and dry it with a hairdryer. The more layers you put on, the deeper the wrinkled effect. We'll see how one layer works. There we go. That's not bad. By the way, you're not seeing things. I am missing a finger. Lost it on a film job. Marlon was in his early 40s and was supposed to be around 60 for the role. I found that about 2 coats of stipple gave him the necessary texture. And when he had to be 10 years older, I went to 4 coats. Of course, stipple only does part of the job. Over the stipple goes shadows, freckles, liver spots, darkness around the eyes. Then Brando's hair had to be grayed, his eyebrows. The teeth had to be made up, darkened and aged. And then, of course, since we couldn't put jowls on the outside, we used what we call a dental plumper. This is, of course, made to order to fit Brando. Fits around his lower teeth, and it has these blobs of plastic here, which I fitted in his mouth to bulge out the right places. Of course, it doesn't fit me, but you get an idea. I had great awe for makeup artists. I worshipped Jack Pierce. He was the guy that created the original Frankenstein monster. And I thought makeup artists were fantastic. And I didn't think I had much artistic talent. I did sketch a little bit. I did make models and things like that. I liked to work with my hands. And I did enjoy this magical thing of makeup. But it was several years before I really ever considered trying to do it seriously. And it was, again, years as a professional before I really felt that I was going to be a good professional. And now that I think I am pretty good, I still think back about, kind of how far I've come. And I just enjoy even the simple tasks that I do well. I mean, even just making a plaster mold, curling a mustache, simple things that I'm an expert at now. Of course, the really great joy of being a makeup artist, and this is something that I've felt from the very beginning of my practice of makeup to this day, and will always, is what I might call the Dr. Frankenstein complex. What you really are doing, you see, when you do a extensive character makeup, is that with art, with craft, with raw materials, you actually create a new human being. Of course, you do this over the face of an actor, but often the change is so tremendous that the original identity of the actor is totally lost. And what emerges as you apply your layers of materials and as you finally get to that magical stage where you apply the first layer of grease paint, which blends all this artifice together, suddenly there is developed a new face, a new being, and it comes alive. And that's why I call it the Dr. Frankenstein thing, because suddenly your creature takes on life, and you really feel kind of godlike that you've really created this creature, and it's very exciting. People who can't get up before dawn, people who like 9-to-5 jobs, who like regular lives, would hate the film business. But I like the craziness. I like the creativity and the challenge. I like the unexpected, the not knowing what's around the corner.